A valiant push to save our elections enters a major moment. Let's check it out. Welcome to Rob Schmitt Tonight. Of the left's many devious schemes, their war on honest elections threatens to destroy this country the fastest. We have learned this country has zero interest at looking into election fraud because finding it, of course, would be a massive liability. After 5 years of fighting against audits, Fulton County, Georgia, recently just admitted to verifying 315,000 votes in the 2020 election that did not have the signature of a poll worker. 5 years they fought before admitting that. Much like we're seeing recently with your tax dollars, nobody in our government is actually protecting the integrity of our elections either. In fact, it's much more sinister. Democrats demand our elections remain unsecured because that works to their benefit. We all know this. Look at 2020. A COVID election, ballots flying all over the place in this country. Biden doesn't even campaign and wins Georgia? Georgia? Well, we now know that Biden won by 11,000 votes with 315,000 votes totally unverified. So is that a win? Remember Brad Raffensperger, the outraged Georgia Secretary of State who ratted on Trump's phone call? Years later, Brad would admit this.
But Brian, if you look at when we did the 100% hand recount, we found 3 counties that messed up, fairly significantly. Number 2 was Fulton County. All of a sudden, they were off by several thousand ballots. Well, it's because you scanned some of these ballots twice.
Several thousand? Priceless moment there. Democrats called the 2020 election, the COVID election, the most secure we had ever seen. That's power. When you can say something so obviously untrue and just mock people, forcing them to accept it. That's the kind of thing you see in a dictatorship, right? Right now, Republicans are demanding a 50 threshold vote in the Senate to pass what is called the SAVE Act, which will mandate only citizens vote in our elections. Democrats are losing their minds over the potential of this. Chuck Schumer is calling this Jim Crow 2.0.
We haven't seen anything quite like this. The dramatic drops in the president's popularity and poll numbers. So, of course, what's his answer? What's Trump's answer? Undo democracy itself. That's the oldest trick in the book of dictators.
By the way, the most accurate pollster, Insider Advantage, has Trump at 50% right now. So the first part of his statement there. And the second part speaks to how terrified they are of a secure election in this country. For years, they've been telling us that black people just don't have ID. That's their desperation. Just pull that race card as hard as you can. We can't ask for ID because black people don't have ID. But then you go into black neighborhoods and you ask people if they have ID, and they look at you like you're an idiot. Rightly so. Democrats are using race to stop us from mandating secure elections the way every other first world nation on the planet does, and a lot of whatever you would call second, third world countries do as well. Look at all those countries that demand that they know who the hell is voting in their elections. And most of those countries are a lot smaller than we are. So the elections are already more secure in the first place. We got 330 million people here and we don't want to check ID? Yeah. It's a massive scam. And it's part of what's enabled the Democrat Party to move so dangerously to the left. Imagine what the party would look like if our elections were actually secure. Imagine what the Democrat Party would have to look like if this country had secure elections and only citizens who were vested in this country were allowed to vote. The Democrat Party would actually have to put together a platform for hard-working American people rather than their current one, which mostly caters to criminals and illegal aliens. And as Chuck Schumer screams Jim Crow 2.0 and we all just roll our eyes and scoff, here's CNN indicating that requiring voter ID and only citizens to vote in this country might be the most bipartisan popular idea in the country right now. Take a listen.
I got all this polling on the screen going back since 2018. You'll notice on all of it, it's all north of 75%, 76%, 76%, 76%, 81%, and then 83% in the last year of Americans agree with Nicki Minaj. They favor photo ID to be able to vote. You got 95% of Republicans, pretty much all of them, But even 71% of Democrats favor photo ID to vote. Actually, it's not really all that controversial. The American people are with Nicki Minaj, whether they are Republican or even if they are Democrat.
71% of Democrats, 83% of the people in this country want to verify who's voting. They want ID, they want you to be a citizen, they want that to be mandated, and they want verification of it. 83% of Americans don't support anything. I can't think of one thing that 83% of this country agrees on at this point. Can you? One thing? You know? I don't even think 83% of Americans like Tom Hanks or other just broadly accepted movie stars and ideas and restaurants, anything. 83%? That's insane. So who are the other 17% that are preventing this, that are so willfully going against the will of the people? Well, of course, they're the ones that are connected to our government, desperately trying to turn this country socialist so Washington, the swamp, can take complete control of the American economy and rapidly expand its power, wealth, and control. Remember, this country produces, what, $30 trillion a year? The government only gets like 6, 7 of it and then spends 8 of it, really, and puts us further into debt. Can you imagine how badly Washington wants control of all $30 trillion that come through here? Man, that's the 17%. And that's how much power that they have. There's something that has 83% support, and it feels like it doesn't have a prayer of getting through. That's wild. These are the people screaming Jim Crow, claiming that black Americans don't have identification. You don't have ID? How do you drive? How do you live? How do you get heat? How do you get anything? Oh, you have ID. Yeah. While also remaining silent as an even more enhanced version of your current ID, the same people that say you shouldn't have ID to vote, these people are also silent because now you need an even more enhanced version of your current ID simply to travel in this country. Take a listen.
Real ID is now required for domestic flights. If you show up without one, it will cost $45 and up to 30 minutes longer in wait times. The TSA recommends paying online in advance or just bringing your passport, which is fully compliant with Real ID requirements.
You notice how everybody in this country right now is talking about, oh, I got to get the freaking Real ID. Oh, I got to do that. I got to do that. Everybody's just talking about this. You hear nothing about this from politicians in this country. I thought identification was Jim Crow. Where's Chuck Schumer on this one? Where's Hakeem? Why are they okay with, not only do you have to have a driver's license to fly already, I think that's already racist, right? You need an even better one now. You need a real ID, like double, triple stamp verification. You need, oh, they better know who the hell's on the plane. Jim Crow? What? The reason is because the federal government wants you to be fully monitored and controlled in every single setting, in every single thing you do except voting. That's the one place they don't want it. That's how corrupt these people are. Right now, the Senate is debating bringing the SAVE Act, which passed the House last spring, finally to the floor. But you know how the Senate is. It's the uniparty. John Thune is says he's considering, forcing Democrats to do what's called a talking filibuster, which would be the best chance we have here, requiring Democrats to actually verbally get out there and filibuster the vote to keep the threshold for passing this bill at 60. And 60 means it would never pass. Its best chance is at 50, and you get a little nervous there with people like Collins and Murkowski. Once Democrats inevitably run out of gas with the talking filibuster, only 50 would be needed to pass this bill. That's it. The threshold would be 50, just half. The president loves the idea of Democrats forced to go out and speak, to publicly defend no voter ID laws in this country in this speaking filibuster. Take a listen.
Who would not want voter ID? Only somebody that wants to cheat. Think of it. We don't have voter ID, and the Democrats don't want it. And the reason they don't want it because they want to cheat, because there's no reason in the world, and I love that debate, Lindsay. I love saying, well, why don't you want voter ID? And you watch them say, I don't know.
Let them get out there for hours and explain why they go against something that 83% of people in this country want, simply because it's for their power. It's the only thing they care about. Do you think any of these people care about the country? No. They care about the next election. That's it. They're getting rich. They're staying in power. they're happy. That's it. Here's the bigger picture. Our country right now is being dragged to the left rapidly. We've had a big win about a year ago, right? But broaden out. We are being dragged to the left. We can all see it. Our Democrat Party, in a two-party system, is unrecognizable from just 20 years ago. Open border, pro-crime, insufferably woke, pro-trans, fraud enablers. You don't recognize these people. These were not the Democrats of 2006. It's not even close. We have a couple major opportunities here to force that party back toward sensible, back toward the middle, which is something that we need, because in a two-party system, the pendulum's going to swing. They're going to get power, we're going to get power. It's going to be like this forever. We have a chance to pull Democrats back towards common sense. A couple chances. One is the upcoming census, which we've shown you a lot in the last couple of weeks. Blue states are bleeding delegates as Americans move away from their horrific policies towards sensible red states. You combine that with the idea that we could have secure elections in this next election, and conservative common sense could start winning this tug of war that the left has been winning for far too long, that has dragged this country so far to the left for so many years. But it starts with the Senate leader, John Thune, ending this outrageous delay of the SAVE Act, 300-something days at this point. And that is something that Trump can force him to do. Trump can make this a really big deal. He's not doing it yet, but he can pound on this and force the issue and add the United States to the list of every other first world country that actually demands election integrity. All right, Congresswoman Paulina Luna joins us tonight. It's good to have you here, and obviously we're talking about something so important, which is the security and the integrity of our elections. You seemed very hopeful about using the talking filibuster in this moment to try and get this passed, which the old school version of the filibuster, a senator has to actually physically stand there on the floor, talk nonstop without any breaks in order to delay or block the vote. The Senate Majority Leader was asked about this earlier today. It seems like he's softening on this idea of potentially getting rid of the 60-vote threshold in order to pass this. Take a listen to this.
We will get a vote on the SAVE Act at some point, and I'm not sure exactly what that context will be. We will vote on the SAVE Act, but exercising or triggering a talking filibuster has ramifications, implications that I think everybody needs to be aware of.
What ramifications is he talking about? And describe what you hear in that soundbite.
Well, you know, I can tell you that the Senate does have a different rules of the House, but from what I've gathered and been able to really research on the talking filibuster in the last 24 hours, of which I was made aware of it literally just yesterday at the White House and among a few senators, is that Senator Thune is actually, and he has stated publicly today that he's going to be talking with his conference about the talking filibuster. And also important to note that he is saying that this might take away other debate time from other important issues. But I actually would say to Senator Thune, who I do believe is going to do the right thing and will embrace this, especially after the president came out literally just today in the Oval Office and said that he wants the Save America Act passed with voter ID. That is 100% something that he is advocating for. But again, going back to Senator Thune's position, this is an issue of national security. I think that this is probably one of the most important things in our country today. And I think after you heard literally Chuck Schumer say that he wants to give amnesty to over 20 million illegal immigrants, literally replacing American voters with illegal votes, I think that that's really all you need to know about this topic. Pass the Save America Act immediately, and we will be voting that in the House.
83% of Americans want ID shown, what citizenship proven to vote in this country. That you don't get 83% of Americans agreeing on anything. And then when you ask Chuck Schumer, who's been in the Senate for 1 million years, he calls it Jim Crow to demand this. And that right there tells you everything you. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think Chuck Schumer was around in Senate probably during the Jim Crow era laws, because he seems to be surely not even pointing out the fact that it was his party that pushed that. Look, for them to call voter ID racist when you literally see the stats, even CNN was forced to report that both Black, Hispanic, Asian, white Americans want voter ID. I mean, it's literally as popular as banning insider trading. So I think we're on the right side of history on this one, and I think that Thune will do the right thing. Look, I wasn't lying to the American people. The president even said it today. He wants wants voter ID. And Thune said that he's bringing this to conference. So I think it's going to happen.
And you think you'll have, if it doesn't require the 60, you think you got the 50?
Well, look, the filibuster right now, there's nothing that's going to happen to remove the filibuster. The votes simply aren't there from Republican senators for that. However, the standing filibuster is a way to work through that and the workaround. And I do think right now there's a lot of very smart people in the Senate that are working on this, to include many senators that I've talked to. And I think the president's on board with it. So
the president certainly seems, I don't know why he wouldn't be. He's been talking about the 2020 election for 4 years. I think he needs to fight this thing as hard as he possibly can. I think he needs to really lay a stick down on the ground and make his point heard more forcefully. I want to switch. I want to talk about Epstein for a second. You're on House Oversight. This recent dump has been a lot more bad news for a lot more, several more high-profile people. Are you satisfied with the transparency that you're seeing? You've been one of the most authentic people fighting for this. It's being called a cover-up by Democrats. They think that the DOJ is washing Trump's name out of this. Are you satisfied with the transparency you're seeing on this?
I think that the DOJ has been working as quick as possible. I think I was actually talking to you recently about the fact that it was a Democrat Obama-appointed judge that literally was responsible for the second review, which is what caused the delay. And it was also one of the same judges that actually killed Rokana and Massey's effort to have someone that was overseeing the release of all of these files. And so what I think is very interesting is Democrats are not wanting to talk about the very wealthy and very powerful Democrats that are in those files. And let me tell you, based on some of the stuff that's come over in the last, or come out in the last 24 hours. I mean, even Nicki Minaj was calling it out. Very disgusting, very weird. But again, if President Trump had something to hide, he would have never advocated for the DOJ to release these files. I've actively been talking to the president on this topic. And so as of right now, I'm, again, still going through all these files. There's literally, there's tons of documents. But I am right now, again, going through and combing through everything.
Curious to see what you're going to ask Bill Clinton when he testifies later this month. And yes, if the president were in any of these files, something tells me in the last 11 years, somebody would have found him, the deep state that hates him so much, that wants to remove him so much from power. Congresswoman, it's good to see you. Thanks so much.
Most certainly. God bless.
All right. Aaron Reitz was Assistant Attorney General for the DOJ in this Trump administration, now running for office. And Aaron, it's good to have you here. I just want to play Jon Stewart from last night to give everybody an idea of what the other side is saying about the Epstein files this week.
It's completely believable that Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell are solely responsible for supposedly KGB and Mossad billion-dollar multinational sex trafficking ring. It's really a mom-and-pop operation. I think that's pretty clear. We always knew that the people at DOJ releasing these documents weren't on a fact-finding mission. They were running interference. And the guy they're running interference for seems very satisfied with these results. The real sanctuary city is where money and power protect you from the consequences of sex trafficking.
So the entirety of the American left, Aaron, believes that there is evidence of pedophilia from our president that's just sitting inside of these files that have been at DOJ for years and years and years now. We've now been through 3 Trump elections where the entire deep state, this entire government, has been desperate for anything to destroy this man. I want to ask you this as a DOJ official. What are the actual chances that this devastating information that they believe exists actually exists, and somehow it's just been missed for the past 11 years?
The chances, Rob, are 0. Okay, if the Biden administration had the same exact files, same access, unredacted in their entirety for 4 years under Attorney General Merrick Garland, and yet despite all of the other examples in which they weaponized the Justice Department, weaponized the courts against Trump and all of his people, they couldn't find anything in the Epstein files, and yet now Trump is transparent about it, and there's nothing in there. And now these leftists like Jon Stewart, you can see how his brain is just melted from Trump derangement syndrome.
And nobody, Aaron, nobody will say that to them. Nobody will just say, listen, bro, I hear you screaming, but like, how did they miss it for all these years? For 11 years, they've been trying to destroy this man, and they had it right there, and they just didn't see it?
Well, in their deranged mind, right? Trump is always the boogeyman that's sort of hiding in the background and making sure that his name was never released or some insane thing like that. So
it is something else. Aaron Reitz, good to see you. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Rob.
Appreciate it. Talk about fraud. There are 10 times as many federally funded hospice facilities in Los Angeles County as there are in the entire state of Florida. Dr. Oz joins us next as Desperate California Democrats call him a racist for exposing this massive scandal. Oz is next.
If you have wet AMD or DME, you never want to lose sight of the things you love. And your condition doesn't have to steal the moment. Long-lasting Eylea HD delivers powerful vision improvements that can save your vision for the future. Eylea HD is the only treatment for wet AMD and DME that helped at least 8 out of 10 people go up to 4 months between injections after 3 initial monthly treatments. Don't take Eylea HD if you have an eye infection, eye pain, redness, or are allergic to it. Eye injections like Eylea HD may cause eye infection, separation of the retina, rare but severe swelling of blood vessels in the eye, or increased eye pressure. There is an uncommon risk of heart attack or stroke. There's still so much to see. Ask about next generation Eylea HD, a treatment retina specialists trust.
Ready for relief? I just want relief. I needed relief.
You just want relief. Like you just want it to go away.
You need the Signal Relief Patch.
We all hurt, whether it's our neck, back, knees, or shoulders. Pain keeps you from doing the things that matter most. In a recent study, 85% of people felt relief.
As a surgeon, I put it on, and I can't explain why it works. I can just tell you, it does work.
Some people think this is just in my head, but I know that it works. It's working.
The Signal Relief Patch for me offered up independence.
The Signal Relief Patch for me actually means pain relief.
With a Signal Patch, I've been able to sleep, walk, and work.
Relief. That's what the Signal Patch gave me.
It was phenomenal. Why aren't more people trying this?
Join the thousands who have experienced relief, and it comes with a money-back guarantee. Get your patch today.
This place has become one of the epicenters for fraud, waste, and abuse in America. $3.5 billion just here in Los Angeles County, we think, around hospice and home health care.
What we have witnessed is a 7-fold increase in hospice in LA County. The Russian Armenian gangs, mafia, that are leading a lot of these efforts, we believe, have been able to corrupt and work with doctors who are willing to lie.
This is just unbelievable, this story. Welcome back. Dr. Oz dropping a bombshell, $3.5 billion in hospice fraud just in LA and LA County. Scammers going after seniors. They offer them cash in return for their Medicare ID numbers. Then they sell those off to these, most of the time, fake hospice companies for thousands of dollars. Oz says Armenian and Russian gangs are playing a large role in operating this racket in LA. And just to illustrate to you how little, pretty much until recently, anybody in your government cared about protecting your money and how much of it they light on fire. Within a 4-block radius in just Van Nuys, north side of LA, Oz found 42 hospice care facilities in 4 blocks. LA County, there are around 2,000 of these facilities. In one county, 2,000. For reference, the entire state of Florida only has a few hundred hospice care facilities in an entire state. That's about the same size. For years, nobody has been watching your money at all. Nobody in our government has cared. They're lighting your money on fire and demanding that you pay more. There has been zero oversight. And thankfully, it appears that's changing now. Dr. Oz, the administrator for the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, and joins us now. Good to have you on again. You have found tremendous fraud. Tell me that we're actually going to make some arrests here and we're going to see some heads roll for this.
The heads will roll, but I want to point out that the right question is not how many people are going to jail, but how much money leaves the building. I say that because we're all indignant. Everyone is angry about the weaponization of fraud. Again, much of this by foreign nationals supported by foreign countries. The head of the mafia in LA that was responsible for this fled back to Russia as soon as he got indicted. That space that right behind me in that doorway, that is the site of a location that was shut down because they had a fake hospice center. The question I'm asking is, what about the other 42 in that 4-block area? Why do they stay open? And I think a lot of this, it's infuriating because you realize for some places in the country, this kind of fraud is not a flaw, it's a feature, Rob. And I want to emphasize a couple of realities here. This is not just about the money, although the money matters, but you're hurting people. You're taking vulnerable Americans and removing their access to care, and they're also stealing their ID, and you're stealing their ability to go to take Medicare benefits, because when you go to hospice, you actually give up your insurance to go into a program designed for your last few months of life. Yet, Rob, many of the people in these hospice centers, they have 100% survival rates. Like, no one dies. They're not dying. They're fakely put on these lists. And so we need to take this stuff serious. I'm gonna ask one big question to the audience. Are you ready? Why would anyone let this happen? I'm hoping you're all wondering that. I wondered that.
Well, here's
that's
the scale of this indicates that just nobody cares, especially in California's government define this. Here's the governor on this same question.
Well, hospice, we've been after that for years and years before Oz was even on the scene. No one's denying these issues. But let's also not deny this is purely political.
We've been after this for years and years, he claims. A 5-year-old could have found this had they been looking for it. Nobody has been looking at this. All he does is lie. They don't care about your money. And I mean, this is so egregious. I can't even believe that this was possible.
Well, I'm going to shock you in the audience. It's a federal law that if you offer someone Medicaid, you also should offer them the ability to vote, the right to register themselves. So it's a voter outreach effort at the same time. Rob, this is political patronage at its worst. It's weaponized by the use of the healthcare system. The president's not going to tolerate it. He is angry. He talks about this all the time. I get phone calls appropriately. He wants to know how is it possible that these fraudsters are stealing the care that Americans deserve. Let's switch to Minnesota for a second. Minnesota expected to spend $3 million for autism. It's now $400 million. Why? Because everybody in the community signed their kids up as though they're autistic. Why? You were paying them. These moms literally took bribes to lie that their kids had autism. Rob, if one child in the neighborhood has autism, they get care, they get support, we can give them money. If every kid in the neighborhood has autism, nobody has autism because you can't get to a provider. Right. And we have these systems that are springing up all over the country. We have durable medical equipment fraud. We believe the Cuban government's involved in South Florida. We've got lots of problems with personal care services in New York. Again, there's lots of people making a ton of money. We have probably more people who are providing home health care in New York that work in retail in New York.
But there's obviously foreign actors at play, but there's a lot of domestic people that are propping this up as well. People have to be working and doing the job on the ground. That's where I'm talking about. We got to find these people, and there has to be heads roll from this because it seems like so often government just doesn't care when its money is stolen. It's our money, and they don't care because it's not their money, as you rightly know. Real quick, I just want to give the response from Newsom and from Adam Schiff in California. Newsom demanding a civil rights investigation. He's calling you racist because you're calling out mobsters, the mafia of Armenia, the Russian mob. Adam Schiff says the demonization of Armenian Americans and targeting of their small businesses is racist and must end. These are the people that have let this happen, and their go-to response is, you're a racist.
I'm stunned. You would think at least they would offer some solution for the many folks in California who are being hurt by this fraud and the Americans across the country whose tax fees are going up. They're paying more money to the IRS so it can be redirected to California. Rob, let me ask you a question. Why would people in New Mexico, which is a blue state, a poor state, have to pay extra money into the federal coffers so there's enough money to pay for the fraud in California? This is not about red and blue. This is about Americans who are being hurt because of the lackadaisical approach to these problems. And again, I can't know this for sure, but it's so bad, at some point you have to wonder, did you let it go on purpose?
I fully expect that I just don't think that they wanted to call it out, because if they call it out, then they're pointing a finger at their own incompetence and what they've let happen. So they just say, let it keep going at this point. Why would you hurt yourself politically? All they care about is getting reelected. They don't care about the money in this country and how much we pay and how much is wasted. It's so infuriating, as you well know. Thank you for caring about the money, and I love that we put together an administration with a lot of people with business minds that don't like to see money wasted. Good to see you, Dr. Oz. Thank you.
God bless, Rob.
All right. A Uruguayan national, an activist judge, thinks she has more power than the President of the United States, shielding 350,000 Haitians from deportation. We've got Tricia McLaughlin from Homeland Security up next on that. Plus, dinosaurs who have funded immigration controls for decades in this country are now talking like open border lunatics.
If you were attacked by a masked person, you might think you were being kidnapped. You'd be justified in shooting the person.
This little light of mine, in the dark found a hopeful sign.
For those with depression not getting enough relief from their antidepressant, adding Caplyta can help you let in the light, providing greater relief from depression symptoms than an antidepressant alone. And unlike some medications, Caplyta is also proven to deliver significant symptom relief from both bipolar 1 and 2 depression.
Elderly dementia patients have increased risk of death or stroke. Caplyta is not approved for dementia-related psychosis. Call your doctor about new or sudden mood changes, behaviors, or suicidal thoughts right away. Antidepressants may increase these risks. Report fever, confusion, stiff muscles, which may be life-threatening, or uncontrolled muscle movements, which may be permanent. High cholesterol and weight gain may occur, as can high blood sugar, which may be fatal. Common side effects are sleepiness, dizziness, nausea, dry mouth, feeling tired, and diarrhea. These aren't all the side effects.
Ask your doctor about Caplyta.
Help see more of the light inside of me.
This is keratin debris, where nail fungus grows. Nonix nail gel cleans out fungus by removing keratin debris. Using Nonix, 90% of nails improve. Get clinically proven results. So effective, it's money-back guaranteed.
Your data is like a single domino. The moment it's stolen, it starts a chain reaction that puts the information that guards your assets at risk. 1 in 3 Americans have been a victim of identity theft. Are you willing to risk it?
When I saw zeros on that screen as my bank account balance, I went to immediate panic.
$21,000 just gone. I opened my account and $30,000 is missing. Like $30,000. I have no idea what to do.
If your personal information is stolen, are you prepared to pick up the pieces alone? LifeLock is the leader in identity theft protection and restoration.
Once LifeLock got involved, everything changed.
With LifeLock, if your identity is stolen, they'll step in and fix it so you don't have to, guaranteed. Our highly trained U.S.-based restoration specialists contact institutions, dispute fraudulent charges, close compromised accounts, and even procure legal support far beyond the capabilities of your bank or credit card company.
LifeLock pursued this case further than I ever would have imagined.
If you call right now, you'll get LifeLock for just $9.99 a month for your first year. And as extra protection, all LifeLock memberships include the $1 Million Protection Package. Our members receive reimbursement for stolen funds and personal expenses, like lost wages, as well as coverage for lawyers and experts up to $3 million in total.
When the bank refused to reimburse my stolen money, the $1 Million Protection Package came through for me.
Our restoration guarantee and $1 Million Protection Package are included in all memberships with no additional fees.
I think it's natural to think that you can do this on your own. You can't. You need an expert in your corner.
Call 1-800-360-9220 and use promo code TV35 or go to lifelock.com/TV35 to join today.
He compared what is happening to your city to that first battle of the Civil War.
A significant and terrifying line is being crossed, and I would agree with that.
This is time for a revolution. It's time for it. A feeling of civil war in the streets.
What is really the major problem in this country today is the fascism in our streets. If you were attacked by a masked person, you might think you were being kidnapped. You'd be justified in shooting the person.
Jerry Nadler has approved how many immigration control bills every single year for the last 90 years that he's been in Congress? Just a look at some of the insane rhetoric on immigration this week. As an activist, Biden appointed Uruguayan national federal judge in D.C. named Ana Reyes has somehow managed to block the Trump administration from ending temporary protected status for 350,000 Haitian migrants living in this country. TPS was extended by Joe Biden and was scheduled to end today. So not only is she blocking the Trump administration, she's actually preventing something that's just going to end from ending. This is just one judge, one woman who's not even born in this country. How can she do this exactly, you wonder? Nobody knows. Evidently, radical left judges can now do anything they want in this country. They're far more powerful than the president. Didn't realize that. Republican Senator Bernie Moreno writing, when a Democrat president can create a temporary program and an unelected Democrat judge can block a Republican president from ever undoing it, we do not live in a democracy. Well said. Tricia McLaughlin from Homeland Security joins us now. I am blown away by the audacity of these judges. How do you stop these people? When do Republicans get the nerve to remove these judges, to find a way to get them out? This is not how it's supposed to work.
It's not how it's supposed to work at all, Rob. It's lawless, it's naked activism, and it undermines the entire purpose of what this program was supposed to be. It is called temporary protected status for a reason, not permanent protected status. In the case with the Haitians, this was from 15 years ago. This is not supposed to be a de facto amnesty program. Yeah. This was supposed to be for extraordinary circumstances. So 15 years is way too long. We got to get back to basics. We have to know who's in our country. Rob, as you know, so many individuals exploited this system. Known and suspected terrorists entered under the system. Those wanted for murder in their country of origin, gang members, really public safety threats entered under this program. And that's why we got to really look at under the hood and say who is in this country.
And Joe Biden said we're going to give an extension here. And now she's saying, well, I'm a judge in Washington, D.C. I'm just going to extend this forever because somehow I've been elected to make this decision in a country of 330 million people. It's the audacity is just tremendous. And the fact that there's no system, or at least Republicans don't have the nerve to apply any kind of pressure to stop this, that needs to end as well. I want to get your reaction to Jerry Nadler, who's been in Congress forever, who was a part of the Democrat Party when they were purely focused on a secure country so that they could keep wages up and protect the people of this country from the wage theft of open borders, is now saying that it's fascist to deport people and is indicating that you'd be justified in shooting ICE officers because they're wearing a mask.
It's just deeply irresponsible and reckless and dangerous for the public, for our law enforcement officers, at a serious moment for our country. And I do want to say, back on the temporary protected status piece, we do plan to go to the Supreme Court with this, so we believe we will be vindicated on this issue. And this judicial activism will not stand. But as far as Jerry Nadler and these other politicians who have sat in Congress for decades, DHS is a law enforcement agency. The men and women of ICE and CBP are enforcing the rule of law on the books in Congress. Yeah. If they don't like it, they should change the law. Don't demonize our law enforcement. Don't liken them to the Nazis, to the Gestapo. It's no coincidence we are seeing a 1,000% increase in assaults against our law enforcement. We've seen 180 vehicle rammings against our law enforcement in the past year alone. Yeah. And we're only seeing that kind of rhetoric continue. Rob, it's really despicable.
From people that supported this exact same activity 10, 15 years ago, now calling it fascist. That's how fraudulent Jerry Nadler is he's desperate to probably try and avoid a primary and keep power in his seat, so he'll just about say anything. And yes, that judge, Supreme Court wins, that judge should be removed. She should be disbarred. It is an outrage what she just tried to pull on this country. Tricia McLaughlin from DHS, thank you so much. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Thank you for having me.
Gavin Newsom attempts to erase a lifetime of white privilege. Next.
We're down here in Wimberley, Texas, to build a smart home for Dustin Weber.
We want to welcome the Weber family to Wimberley.
Yesterday was just amazing.
The thought that has been put into these smart homes, they've thought of everything that will make his life better.
This home allows me the freedom to experience my children, taking them to bed. This home allows me the freedom to not slip and fall in the bathroom. It is a life-changing experience.
Doctor's Preferred Liver Defense is doctor-developed to support your natural detox function with clinically validated, triple-tested key ingredients to energize and renew your liver. Find Liver Defense in the supplement aisle at Walmart. Doctor's Preferred. Better science, better results.
Whoa, 90% off? I have to purchase now. My phone!
That was a scam link.
Try this one. We installed PC-Matic.
PC-Matic blocked ransomware before threats can strike.
It's 100% made in America security.
Trusted by homes, businesses, governments, and now you. Stop guessing.
Start blocking.
Get PC-Matic.
Hi there, I'm Dean Heskin, President and CEO of Swiss America. With trillions of dollars vanishing from the stock portfolios of retiring Americans, many hardworking people I speak with are concerned about the holdings in their IRAs. But I have good news for you. Our team at Swiss America can show you how easy it is to own gold in your IRA. You see, even with economic turmoil all around us, gold continues to not only be a safe haven, but is also increasing to all-time highs. The volatility of markets has created a lot of undue stress for people. Wouldn't you like that peace of mind that diversifying into metals can provide? For over 40 years, Swiss America has helped people just like you own precious metals in your IRAs. So don't miss this opportunity. Call or text our team at the number on your screen to receive a free copy of our Gold IRA brochure today.
Protect your family. Buy LifeVac now.
Thank you, Dad.
That was us over 10 years ago.
Now LifeVac is responsible for saving over 4,000 lives from choking.
In the time it takes you to pick up the phone and call, another life could be saved.
The LifeVac saved my life in 1 to 2 seconds.
Protecting families has always been our mission. I'm sure you love your family like I love my daughter. Do us all a favor and get your own LifeVac now.
Go to lifevac.net or call 877-LifeVac. Order now.
Don't kibble your dog.
Oh, hey, Dr. Marty.
Hey, Matt.
But what's wrong with this? It's premium stuff.
Let's check it out. It's still kibble, which means it's ultra-processed at extremely high temperatures that destroy the nutrients in the food. But at Dr. Marty, we gently freeze-dried premium meats, fruit, and vegetables, locking in their nutrients.
Never kibbled.
You got it, kid, and they're gonna love it.
Amid the destruction of his state, Gavin Newsom wants a promotion, wants to be the president of the United States. He's got a new book looking to whitewash his tremendous white privilege, which is far too toxic, of course, for mainstream Democrat politics today. Gavin reinventing himself in this new book as a kid who had to beat the odds and struggled growing up in California. The New York Times highlighting him as a teenager who delivered newspapers because money at home was tight. A young man who overcompensated for his dyslexia by memorizing a list of pretentious words that remain in his lexicon today. So kind of the same story we got from Biden, too. There's a picture of the reality of Gavin Newsom's childhood, by the way. Nice scarf. He is everything that his political party now hates, which is why he had to write this book and pretend like he had to struggle at some point in his life. He's never struggled a day. The picture of white privilege there in black and white. His father was a financial advisor for the Getty family, oil tycoons, worth over $2 billion. The Gettys financed Newsom's business ventures. He got rich fast. He was rich young. His aspirations politically financed by the Gettys as well. He looked to become mayor of San Francisco in the early 2000s. He's had the most charmed life you can imagine, related to Nancy Pelosi as well. Gavin attended an event this week aimed at stopping fentanyl from coming into our country, which, just like so many other issues, is one Democrats now only pretend to care about as Trump actually tackles the problem. This is what it is. Here's Gavin pandering, as usual, to immigrant families.
You can't spend time with real people and not feel their pain and not feel that trauma. Donald Trump doesn't understand that. Thank God a member of the board is a doctor, because they couldn't convince a young woman here legally to go to the doctor. She had a medical condition. She was so scared of being racially profiled on her way to the doctor. She refused to go to the doctor. And they were giving me an example, telling me that story.
I bet he spent 4 hours picking out that outfit. Katie Zacharia, legal and political strategist, joins us now. Dave Rubin, host of the Rubin Report, also with us. Good to have you both here. Katie, a lot of people think that might not be a true story, the one that he told at that event this week. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, it sounds like a lot of just theatrical grandstanding from Gavin Newsom. He funded health care at the cost of for the California taxpayer to the tune of $23 billion for the illegal immigrants. Then he realized, Rob, after bankrupting our system, our Medi-Cal system, that he couldn't do it anymore. And now we're $3.4 billion in the hole. So if that woman can't go get health care for free, it's because Gavin Newsom realized his policy didn't work. And this is another thing that the left likes to do. They conflate illegal immigrants with legal immigrants and tie them all together, where President is very for legal immigration and he is against, and as we all should be, illegal immigration, Rob.
Yeah, it's Dave, you fled the state. Gavin wants to chase you down and govern you again from the White House is his plan. Watching all of the incompetence that's pouring, the evidence of incompetence that's pouring out of your state right now, it is amazing to see him trying so hard to paint this picture of himself as presidential.
Well, it ain't my state anymore because I'm here in the free state of Florida where things are basically the polar opposite of California, a place where it's safe, where the economy's flourishing, where people are moving to instead of leaving. As you know, U-Haul has to literally charge people more now to leave California because nobody brings the trucks back. That is an actual fact. I mean, look, this guy, everything that this guy has touched, except his bank account, he has turned into garbage. He was the mayor of San Francisco, which was one of the most beautiful cities in the entire country 20 years ago, right outside Silicon Valley, tons of money pouring in. He's basically turned it into I Am Legend or pick your zombie movie with the drugs and the crime and everything else. It is simply not safe. Everyone knows that. We know about the amount of billionaires that are now leaving California because they're being taxed to the nth degree, and eventually that'll be the millionaires, and eventually it'll be the middle class too. But look, none of this should surprise anybody. I mean, this is a guy who quite literally during COVID was shutting down small businesses while at basically the most expensive restaurant in the entire country, French Laundry, with a bunch of lobbyists during COVID indoors. We could do this all day. I'd be happy to do it if you want. Just go through the list of hypocrisies and nonsense.
Every decision that he makes is based on what he thinks will reflect best on his political persona and his political ambition. Nothing has to do with what's best for the state of California. I want to get to one more before I let you guys go, and that's the Billie Eilish story this week. The Native American tribe whose ancestral land is beneath Billie Eilish's multi-million-dollar house has a statement for her after they heard what she said at the Grammys, where she stated that this is all stolen land. The Tongva tribe saying, as the first people of the greater Los Angeles basin, we understand that her home is situated in our ancestral land. Eilish has not contacted our tribe directly regarding her property. We do value the instance when public figures provide visibility to the true history of the country. So she makes a statement like this, Katie, but she has no real interest in reaching out to the tribe. She certainly doesn't have any interest in giving her house up and giving it back.
No, and this is all again, more grandstanding and theater, and they're using the Grammys to tout their narratives. But really, is she actually serious about that land? No. And do they understand immigration? Do they understand that ICE stands for Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, and that no country can exist without immigration and customs enforcement or border regulation? This is just absurd. And I love that she got publicly called out by the native tribe.
It's comical. I mean, Dave, put up or shut up. Give the house back. Give the house back to the tribe. Let them, do what they want.
I unequivocally stand with the Tongva tribe, and Billie, I should give the house back. She should give away her money. She is keeping them living under occupation. Nobody's illegal. I love it. Nobody's illegal on stolen land. That literally means nothing. Then no one is here, period, right? I mean, it's all pure virtue signaling nonsense. It's also interesting that a house that's on the water in Malibu is only worth $3 million, which, to connect this to the Gavin story, is because people are leaving Malibu thanks to the fires and his mismanagement there. And of course, they're all also moving to Florida. So it's just across the board ridiculous with these people.
It certainly is. It never stops. Katie, Zacharia, Dave Rubin, good to see you guys. Thanks so much. As European leaders destroy their countries, free speech becomes a major liability that they can't have. And now, those leaders are going after the world's greatest champion of free speech. That is next.
So, here is a before of my stomach before Sono Bello, and this is after.
This year, don't just lose weight, lose stubborn fat and sagging extra skin permanently at Sono Bello.
I had some loose, wiggly skin, and it is no longer there thanks to Sono Bello.
Our expert surgeons use micro laser technology to safely target and remove your diet-resistant fat and tighten loose skin permanently.
I wanted the results of the tummy tuck, but not the downtime. I had a 10 out of 10 experience.
We've helped over 300,000 people transform, and we're proud to be America's #1 cosmetic surgery specialist.
In just one visit, Sono Bello got rid of my love handles and my belly fat.
You want that flat stomach? You go get that flat stomach.
Call Sono Bello.
Get in there for your free consultation. Do this for you.
Schedule your free, no-obligation consultation. Our flexible payment options make it easy to get started today.
As a neurologist, my patients are often concerned with age-related memory decline. I recommend Cunol Brain Health with 2 powerful, high-absorption ingredients clinically shown to improve memory, focus, attention, and more. Cunol, the brand I trust.
Ready for relief? I just want relief.
I needed relief. You just want relief. Like you just want it to go away.
You need the Signal Relief Patch.
We all hurt, whether it's our neck, back, knees, or shoulders. Pain keeps you from doing the things that matter most. In a recent study, 85% of people felt relief.
As a surgeon, I put it on, and I can't explain why it works. I can just tell you, it does work.
Some people think this is just in my head, but I know that it works. It's working.
The Signal Relief Patch for me offered up independence.
The Signal Relief Patch for me actually means pain relief.
With a Signal Patch, I've been able to sleep, walk, and work.
Relief. That's what the Signal Patch gave me.
It was phenomenal. Why aren't more people trying this?
Join the thousands who have experienced relief, and it comes with a money-back guarantee. Get your patch today.
Your Florida life is calling, and we have the answer. Valencia in Florida by GL Homes. Premium 55-plus living in 5 prime Florida locations. Gorgeous new homes from the mid-300s to $2.5 million. World-class resort-style living 24/7. Huge clubhouses, on-site dining, pickleball, and more. Effortless, low-maintenance living. Valencia, your Florida life is calling. Experience more at valenciaflorida.com.
Champions trust Cosequin, the #1 vet-recommended retail joint health supplement brand.
This little light of mine in the dark found a hopeful sign.
For those with depression not getting enough relief from their antidepressant, adding Caplyta can help you let in the light, providing greater relief from depression symptoms than an antidepressant alone. And unlike some medications, Caplyta is also proven to deliver significant symptom relief from both bipolar 1 and 2 depression.
Elderly dementia patients have increased risk of death or stroke. Caplyta is not approved for dementia-related psychosis. Call your doctor about new or sudden mood changes, behaviors, or suicidal thoughts right away. Antidepressants may increase these risks. Report fever, confusion, stiff muscles, which may be life-threatening, or uncontrolled muscle movements, which may be permanent. High cholesterol and weight gain may occur, as can high blood sugar, which may be fatal. Common side effects are sleepiness, dizziness, nausea, dry mouth, feeling tired, and diarrhea. These aren't all the side effects.
Ask your doctor about Caplyta.
Help see more of the light inside of me.
Welcome back. Time now for news from the left. French prosecutors raiding the offices of Elon Musk's social media platform X in France, claiming to be going after deep fakes and child pornography, which, by the way, is something that Elon Musk actually cares about getting rid of. That's all fake. In reality, the Europeans are outraged that Elon Musk's X is allowing its users to freely criticize their governments as they destroy the heritage of their continent with mass migration from Africa and the Middle East. That is why they hate free speech so much. That's why they hate Elon so much. The official account of X saying the allegations underlying today's raid are baseless, and X categorically denies any wrongdoing. That's accurate. Elon also chiming in, he's calling this a political attack, which is exactly right. The perfect example of this, Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez attacking Elon for simply allowing his site to share the news of Spain's decision to grant legal status for up to 500,000 North Africans. Take a listen.
Just last week, the owner of X, a migrant himself, used his personal account to amplify disinformation about the sovereign decision by my government, the regularization of 500,000 migrants that live, work, and contribute to the success of our country. There's only one thing we can do: take back control. We need to make sure that these platforms comply with the rules like everybody else.
What a piece of garbage that guy is. He's a terrible human being. Amplifying what he did is the crime of Elon Musk, and they must take back control, which means we want to do things we don't want you to know about it. We don't want you to talk about it. We want you to just let us get away with it. Awful, awful leader. And finally, media outraged as the NFL failed to hire any black head coaches this offseason with the 10 jobs that were evidently open. Only 3 black head coaches remain in the league, and the diversity pushers out there are saying the NFL is continuing to show its true colors on this. The commissioner, of course, is playing along and pretending that these kinds of decisions should, for some reason, be based on race. Take a listen.
I think we need to continue to make progress, and I believe that. I believe diversity is good for us. I think we have become a more diverse league across every platform, including coaching. But we still have more work to do. There's got to be more steps, so we're reevaluating everything we're doing.
Yeah, if that organization ran it the way he claims he wants to run it, it would fail and collapse, as we all know. But you know what? Let's say he's right. And then I think we need to see more Korean running backs in the NFL. I want to see a 5'5", 120-pound guy from Seoul out there, 3rd and long, going for the conversion. Let's really do it, Roger Goodell. I really want to do it this time. Let's make it happen. Andrew Cuomo on Mom Donnie's Tax the Rich plan. A hell of a soundbite up next.
For pain in multiple spots like here, here, or here, Salonpas patches stick firmly and remove comfortably once your pain is gone. Salonpas. It's good medicine.
The future of real estate is here. Real estate tokenization turns property ownership into digital tokens on the blockchain, allowing assets to be divided, traded, and managed with ease. Through fractional ownership, stop trading stocks, start trading skyscrapers. For the first time, you can buy, sell, and trade ownership in income-producing real estate as easily as a share of Apple stock. Your portfolio's next power play is here. TheInvestorsPool.com.
The grind catches up with everyone, even me. That's why I trust Cunol Ultra High Absorption Turmeric to support my joint health. It's the #1 doctor-recommended form of turmeric. It helps you keep doing the things you love at every age. Cunol, the brand I trust.
These days, supporting the right causes matters more than ever. That's why I chose Patriot Mobile. They're not just a great mobile service provider, they're all about giving back. Every bill helps support causes we believe in: family, faith, and freedom. You get great nationwide coverage on all 3 main networks. Even better, you're doing it with an American company that stands up for us. It's time to make the switch, y'all. Let's support a wireless company that's got our back. Go to patriotmobile.com and make the switch today.
At TrueWork, we know what you wear must stand up to the job. That's why we designed performance workwear, built for shifting weather and real job site demands. We test, we listen, we refine, until every detail earns its place. It's built like it matters, because it does. TrueWork, performance workwear. Shop today at truework.com.
And finally tonight, Mamdani wants to tax the rich to hell and back. Our former governor, Andrew Cuomo, with a response.
You increase taxes on the rich, you will accelerate the reasons for them to leave the state for lower tax jurisdictions. That is a fact. I understand the political appeal to the socialists: tax the rich, because the rich are evil, the rich are bad. The way the taxes work in this state, the top 1% of payers pay 50% of the taxes. So keep pushing that top 1% to leave the state, and this state is going to have real financial problems.
Rob Finnerty up next. That is the common sense of Cuomo, the guy that blew it so bad he could be running this city right now.
Where was all that when you were running for mayor, when you were governor? Now he's going to run for Congress or something like that. Rob, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Finnerty starts now.